Some crimes are hidden in shadows behind closed doors. Others are committed in the open, under the vast sky, where the world itself becomes a witness. On the evening of September 2nd, 2021, high above the city of Edinburgh, a young lawyer named Fawziyah Javed fell from a cliff on Arthur's Seat. She was 31 years old, 17 weeks pregnant, and by her own final words, she had been pushed. Her husband, Kashif Anwar, stood nearby. He claimed she slipped, but she said otherwise. And in that contradiction lies a story of control, coercion, and the fatal price of silence. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. It helps so much. I'm your host, Stacy Lee. Let's begin. Arthur's Seat isn't just a hill, it's a stage. Tourists climb it for the panoramic selfies, students hike it on weekends, couples linger at the summit for a romance against the city lights. But on September 2nd, 2021, the drama that unfolded there wasn't a postcard, it was a tragedy. Around 8:30 p.m., tourists spotted a couple making their way along the path. They looked like any other visitors. She was in modest attire. He was beside her, talking quietly. They even snapped a selfie, smiling faintly. Edinburgh Castle behind them. That image would become the last photograph of Fawziyah alive. Minutes later, the calm broke. Walkers and hikers heard a scream. A woman's voice carried on the wind. A man shouted, and then there was silence. By the time strangers scrambled towards the sound, Fawziyah lay crumpled on the slope below, severely injured but still conscious. She gasped for air, blood pooling, bones broken, and when one woman, Dania Rafiq, a passerby, reached her side, Fawziyah mustered the strength to speak. She said, "Don't let my husband near me. He pushed me." Those words weren't whispered in courtrooms. They weren't pieced together later by detectives. They were spoken on the mountain, in the dirt, by a dying woman. Fawziyah's husband, Kashif Anwar, hovered nearby, phone in hand. He told others that she had slipped, that it was an accident, but his hesitation betrayed him. When asked to call emergency services, he delayed. When people urged him to approach her, she refused him. Witnesses later said he seemed more concerned about appearances than urgency. By the time paramedics reached her, it was too late. Fawziyah Javed died on the hillside. The child she carried died with her. Arthur's Seat is supposed to be an extinct volcano, but that night it erupted, not with lava, but with lies. Before she became a victim, she was a woman of ambition and compassion. Fawziyah Javed was born in September 1989 in Leeds, the cherished only child of Mohammed and Yasmin Javed. Her parents described her as their miracle and their pride. She excelled academically, moving on to study law, where her sharp mind and steady ethics made her stand out. Fawziyah became an employment lawyer, working cases that touched on fairness, discrimination, and workplace justice. Colleagues respected her, not just for her intelligence, but for her kindness. She was the sort who remembered birthdays, who checked in on colleagues after long cases, who balanced legal rigor with human empathy. She was also deeply involved in her South Asian community, mentoring young women, advocating for independence and education. Fawziyah's mother would later say she wanted to help people who felt they had no voice. That's who she was. Her personality shone. Independent, ambitious, quietly determined. She loved fashion, travel, family dinners, and the simple rituals of friendship. And Fawziyah dreamed of one day raising children in a home filled with warmth, not fear. That dream seemed within reach in 2019 when she met Kashif Anwar. At first, he was attentive, charming, and eager to impress. By 2020, they were married in an Islamic ceremony on Christmas Day, blending celebration with vows of permanence. But behind the smiles, seeds of control were already sprouting.
Fawziyah was a beautiful soul. She was a gift to mankind, perfect in every way. An angel on earth, kind, generous, would do anything for anybody, wore her heart on her sleeve. She's the most perfect daughter. The first time that we met him, thought he was a polite, well-mannered young person.
When did you start realising that things weren't right for Fawziyah in her marriage?
A few months after the marriage, Fawziyah, although she was one of them people that was always upbeat and smiling, I could tell as a mother something wasn't quite right. Slowly, she started telling me. She told me how abusive that he was.
3 months after the wedding, Anwar knocked Fawziyah unconscious in a cemetery. At around the same time, he put a pillow over her face and punched her in the head. He also withdrew £12,000 from her bank account while she was sleeping.
Obviously, I was encouraging Fawziyah to leave, and she was, I am going to leave him. I'm buying my time. I know what I'm doing. And one of the things that she was trying to do was to get the money back that he'd stolen from her, which I had to go along with.
Fawziyah was planning to leave, wasn't she?
She was. She'd contacted divorce lawyers to get the ball rolling, to get a divorce, because he always said, I'm never going to divorce you. She'd also made voice recordings of him where he's been threatening and abusive towards her. So obviously that was all evidence how he was treating her.
You've ruined my life.
I'll tell you one thing. You end this and I will ruin yours.
Fawziyah went to the police twice, said that there was a record of Anwar's behaviour, although she didn't want them to intervene at that point. The second police report was made just days before Anwar killed her on a weekend away in Edinburgh. The couple were captured on CCTV heading to the Arthur's Seat hilltop. After Anwar pushed her off, Fawziyah was able to tell passers-by what happened to her before she died. What was going through your head when you were in court?
Fawziyah's last words, am I going to die? Is my baby going to die? And them words go round and round my head every single day, alongside the grief and pain. I can't get them words out of my mind.
When Fawziyah was pushed, you didn't just lose Fawziyah, did you?
No, of course. We lost our unborn grandson as well. 2 lives have been lost. It's double murder.
Do you feel like you've got justice for Fawziyah?
No, because, yeah, he has been convicted, but the fact remains we don't have Fawziyah with us. Our lives have been destroyed. It's caused so much destruction. She's not here with us, and we're having to push through time. We're not living anymore. We're just existing.
From the outside, Kashif and Fawziyah seemed like a typical young couple navigating married life. But inside their marriage, storm clouds gathered fast. Friends and family noticed changes. Fawziyah, once lively and social, grew quieter. She canceled plans. She withdrew. When pressed, she confided in her mother. She said, "He controls me. He won't let me be myself." Sounds like we have a very accomplished, intelligent woman and a very little man. Evidence presented in court later revealed a pattern of coercive control. Kashif would monitor Fawziyah's phone, demand access to passwords, and insist on knowing where she was at all times. He criticized her clothing, her tone, and her friendships. What looked like jealousy was really domination, and at times it escalated into physical violence. Witnesses testified that Kashif once struck Fawziyah with a pillow, leaving her shaken. He allegedly siphoned money from her bank account, leaving her financially tethered. He isolated her from friends, eroding her independence piece by piece.
What do you think you are? You're not a man. So come back tomorrow like you've been told. What's your problem? Don't challenge me. Do not be that British woman. I'm telling you now not to. It's not going to work. Because I'm telling you it will not work. I promise you it will not work. It won't work with me.
What do you think Anwar's motive was?
I think his motive was honor-based, alongside the fact that he was evil, jealous, Fawziyah, insecure.
When you say honour-based abuse, what do you mean?
He used to say to Fawziyah, we don't have divorces in our family. We don't divorce. We stay in marriages no matter what. I mean, even in the recordings, he said to Fawziyah, stop behaving like a British woman, meaning, you know, an independent, well-educated young woman. He didn't like that. He didn't like the fact that Fawziyah had her own voice, her own opinions. He didn't like that.
To outsiders, Kashif projected confidence, even arrogance. At work, he dressed sharply, spoke with authority, and cultivated the image of a man in control. At home, that image turned toxic. Fawziyah told relatives that she feared for her safety and that she wanted to leave, but she felt trapped. Kashif even told Fawziyah that if she died during childbirth, it would be okay and that he'd simply be free. I mean, I guess I am just the biggest bitch on earth. If somebody talked to me like that, I'd probably be in jail for the night, and I'd definitely be gone the next day. I mean, this isn't something you joke about. That's a slip of truth. And the longer this went on, the more Fawziyah's friends and family became concerned.
So anything that's here, that you're probably going to say belongs to you. You're not taking anything from here.
Right, so what's going to happen to it?
So it's all going to stay here. That's my possession. This is my house.
By the summer of 2021, Fawziyah had begun planning her exit. She confided in friends, began making arrangements to go. But in September, Kashif proposed this trip to Edinburgh, a romantic getaway, he said. Time to reconnect. And against her instincts, Fawziyah agreed. It would be their last trip together. Some couples go to Edinburgh for the whiskey and the castles. Kashif took his wife there for a cliffhanger ending. On the morning of September 2nd, 2021, Kashif and Fawziyah boarded a train from Leeds to Edinburgh. He told her family it was a short holiday and a romantic break. But family members would later testify that Fawziyah was tense, that she called her mother from the station, saying she hoped for peace but feared arguments. The couple checked into a hotel near the city center. CCTV footage captured them walking hand in hand along the Royal Mile, blending with tourists. He wore a hoodie, she wore a long coat. They looked ordinary enough that no one watching guessed the evening would end in terrible tragedy. At around 8:30 p.m., the couple began their climb at Arthur's Seat, the ancient volcanic hill that towers 800 feet over Edinburgh. The trail winds through rocky crags, uneven paths, sudden drops. To most, it's a scenic walk. To Kashif, prosecutors argued, it was an opportunity. They paused to take a selfie. Fawziyah smiled faintly with her lips closed. In hindsight, her expression carries a tension that you can't unsee. Moments later, passers-by heard raised voices. Witnesses described Kashif shouting, followed by Fawziyah's scream, and then silence. A tourist named James Duncan heard the cry and turned to see a woman falling. Another walker rushed forward, finding Kashif pacing above the slope. Below, Fawziyah lay broken but alive, gasping for breath. And then a stranger, Dania Rafiq, climbed towards her. She leaned close, asking what happened. With her last strength, Fawziyah said, "Don't let my husband near me. He pushed me." Her words were echoed to police officers who arrived minutes later. PC Rhiannon Clutton testified that Fawziyah explained she had told Kashif earlier that day that she wanted a divorce, that she no longer loved him, and that was when he snapped. Paramedics scrambled, but the injuries were catastrophic. Broken bones, internal bleeding, and blunt trauma. Fawziyah died where she fell. The child she carried died too. Kashif, meanwhile, tried to perform the role of grieving husband. He told officers she slipped. He delayed calling 999, even though Fawziyah's phone worked. Kashif asked odd questions. He said, "How many years do you think I'll get? Double figures?" The police officers at the scene couldn't believe he was already thinking about that. Kashif thought he was calculating a prison sentence like an accountant doing taxes. Turns out the court had a much bigger number in mind. The trial opened in April 2023 at the High Court in Edinburgh, nearly 19 months after the fall. Presiding was Lord Beckett. The prosecution laid out a case of coercive control, abuse, and premeditation. Attorneys described Kashif as a man consumed by jealousy and rage, whose controlling behavior escalated until it ended in murder. They presented testimony from Fawziyah's family and friends, who described her fear, her plans to leave, her warnings that if anything happened to her, it would be at Kashif's hands. Oh, these stories where the women cry out for help, like in the episode a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, the Tamarack triple murder. I can't imagine what it feels like to know that you're going to die. Like, in your heart of hearts, you know someone's going to kill you and you can't get the help you need, or you can't make the moves that you need or get the response that you need. That must be frustrating and maddening. And Fawziyah had decided to leave, you know? I mean, she had told him that she wanted a divorce. She probably thought in her mind maybe this would make him believe that he was going to be free of her and he wouldn't hurt her. I don't know. The jury heard of incidents where Kashif had isolated Fawziyah, accessed her bank accounts, struck her, and dictated her every move. They heard of the chilling comment that if she died in childbirth, he would be okay. Most damning of all were her dying declarations. Multiple witnesses testified she explicitly said Kashif pushed her. Scottish law gives weight to a victim's last words, especially when corroborated by other evidence. The defense insisted it was a tragic accident. Kashif claimed she lost her footing and that he had tried to save her. His lawyers argued her words were confused and spoken in panic, but the evidence painted a different story. Witnesses heard arguing. She named him clearly multiple times. His delay in calling emergency services suggested calculation. And after a 2-week trial, the jury took only 2.5 hours to return a verdict: guilty of murder. On April 6, 2023, Lord Beckett sentenced Kashif Anwar to life imprisonment with a minimum of 20 years before parole. He told Anwar, quote, "You showed no remorse. You murdered your wife and unborn child, and in doing so, you destroyed 2 families." In the gallery, Fawziyah's mother wept. She later said, "He has ruined our lives, but at least there is justice."
I believe he does have some control still from prison. He, the fact is, I still don't have all of Fawziyah's possessions back. The possessions that I have got back, I've had to fight tooth and nail to get them possessions back. And his parents are honouring that control by not giving all her possessions back to us. And then not only that, they're spreading rumours that he's innocent, that Fawziyah slipped, it's nothing to do with their son. They've just added to my pain.
The Anwar family told us that they had returned all of Fawziyah's possessions to the police and to her family.
I've known Fawziyah since 2010. She'd come along to our events with her mother Yasmin. She was a smart young woman who just wanted to help people, and I think her volunteer work really is a testimony to her passion for social justice, and she touched the lives of so many people. It was a shock when we found out about Fawziyah's murder, because she was educated, she knew her rights, she knew about violence against women and girls, she volunteered for us, yet she still ended up dead. It just shows you how partners can be so manipulative and controlling, and she clearly wanted to get out of the relationship and found it really difficult.
Are there any extra barriers for women of South Asian heritage trying to leave abusive relationships?
So in Muslim communities, the religious divorce is used as a method of coercive control and manipulation. So even when women leave abusive marriages, the husband will try and stop her from moving on with her life and stop her from getting a religious divorce. It's a method of coercive control.
This is the first media interview that I've done since the murder, because I want to raise awareness. You know, Fawziyah, a very intelligent, articulate, strong-minded, very educated young woman. She had somewhere to go, like her parents, and she was in the process of coming back home. She was financially very stable, so she didn't have to rely on the abuser financially. And this happened to her, it could happen to anybody. You know, I just want to put the message out there. Nobody's immune from this type of thing.
The verdict brought relief, but not healing. For Fawziyah's family, the silence was a hollow victory. Their daughter, their only daughter, their only child was gone. The grandchild they dreamed of holding was gone. Ooh, I don't know how people go on. I really don't. In Leeds, her friends held vigils. Friends remembered Fawziyah as gentle, witty, and brilliant. Colleagues spoke of her legal career, how she fought for fairness in workplaces, how she could have done so much more. The case also reignited discussions around domestic abuse and coercive control. Advocates pointed out that Fawziyah had raised concerns, but fear and cultural pressures silenced her. Her death became a rallying point for encouraging women to speak out and for systems to listen. Kashif Anwar, meanwhile, sits in prison, calculating years like failed stock trades. At 31, he will be in his 50s before parole is even considered. By then, his reputation, his freedom, his carefully cultivated image will all be a distant memory. For a man obsessed with control, the irony is perfect. His world is now 12 feet by 8, controlled by guards with keys. The red sandstone of Arthur's Seat still towers over Edinburgh. Tourists climb it every day, snapping selfies, catching sunsets. Many don't know the story written into its rocks, that on a September evening, a young woman's last words echoed there, indicting the man who promised to love her. Her name was Fawziyah Javed. She was a daughter, a lawyer, a friend, a mother-to-be, and she will never be reduced to just the woman who fell, the woman who was pushed. Her own words made sure of that. If someone you know is experiencing control or abuse, please encourage them to seek help. Speak, even when fear says stay silent. And to those who lost Fawziyah, please know we are thinking of you and hope that you can find healing and comfort. Thank you for joining me today on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. It helps so much. This is my podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify. And I have a second podcast coming very soon called 15-Minute Mysteries with Stacy Lee. And I appreciate you, each and every one of you who watch, who leave kind comments, who've been supporting me for years now. Stay safe, my friends, and be kind to each other. And I will see you next time on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Bye.